So here's Josh and his Cummins. So you're here to find out what the Cummins swap cost, pros and cons. Josh, take it away. Tell us what the score is.
My truck would have started life as a 2.5 NA diesel back in 1986. Somebody then fitted a 300 TDI Discovery 1 engine into it, which was really good. Couldn't fault it as a truck, however towing was terrible. Did 3 or 4 trips to Nürburgring over in Germany with the Peugeot on the trailer, and yeah, just hills just weren't very good. Good friend of mine, Adam Trant, had just started to do this Cummins conversion, followed by my cousin Mikey Gully. The plan was always to put a 6.2 V8 GMC diesel, which my uncle has used for many years, into this. I even had a crate engine sat ready, but it just wasn't meant to be. They're not boosted, they don't start very well. Power is incredible. You have to kind of run them on an auto box. I know some people are running them on manuals and they say it's good, but my uncle's had his for 20 years and auto is the way forward. So we went for a Cummins. Costs wise, you can buy a complete lorry for about 750 quid, MOT fails. The reason for that, I believe, is that the MOTs are really expensive on lorries. So once they fail on whatever, rot, this, that and the other, they're scrap. So buy an engine in a lorry is the best way to go, unless you're going to get it from Reese with having it rebuilt. You've got 2 variations of the Cummins. Well, I say 2, you've got more than that. You've got the 12 valve 6 pot, which I've got.
Just the basic. Everybody knows.
Yeah, 5.9 6 pot. You've also got the 3.9 4BT. Twice the money of the 6BT, very hard to come by, and they're just a 4-cylinder version. Same turbo, and I believe, and I'll probably be corrected, same power output. You've then got the 24 valve ISB engine. Not too sure what they come out of. I've not really looked into it. I believe that they do fit that engine into the Dodge Ram. They also fitted this one to the Dodge Ram in the earlier Dodge Rams, and then the later ones have the 24 valve. Bit more tunable, you get ECU, blah blah blah, and all that. I went for this because I had the complete lorry. All the air system off the lorry is something you need to take into account. You've got all the air system, got all the pipe work that you need. You've got the D2 governor, which is how you control the air all off the lorry. And then, I mean, you could weigh the lorry in for scrap. A lot of people want the cabs and the lights out of the DAF 45.
You did sell that cab off that one?
Yeah, Adam did sell the cab off the lorry.
Yeah.
So there's money back from that. There's a lot of wheels and axles that you could do some wonderful things with.
So the lorry's going to be, or engine, should we say, 700 quid.
Yeah.
There or thereabouts, depending on what you end up buying.
So moving on. So now we've got an engine and gearbox and turbo and air system. So now we need to get that in a Landrover. So you can buy a engine mount kit from Reese, or you can do what we did, is I had my good friend Adam make up some engine mounts and put it in yourselves using Ford Transit donut bushes. Moving forward, so now you've got it on, you can adapt the gearbox mount over to get that to fit. We're using the ZF gearbox out of the lorry with an uprated clutch, because when you sort of go above sort of what the lorry can do, sort of 50-60 mile an hour, the clamping force of the clutch isn't enough. Now, I find that hard to believe that the lorry can pull 10 tons, but it can't go above 70 mile an hour. And now we've got the ZF gearbox mated to the LT230 Land Rover transfer box, which is a standard transfer box. We take that to pieces, we put some special gears in from Reese, which has a shaft and some different intermediate gears, and that adapts it over with an adapter plate to go onto the back of the lorry gearbox down to your transfer box. We then get the standard prop shafts, cut them down, weld them up, and get them, that's that done.
So roughly, what does the clutch and the gearbox conversion parts, I know your prop was just welded together, wasn't it? Wasn't
yeah,
so that's a cost that somebody's going to have to find out for themselves.
Yeah, costs in all, I can't really remember each individual piece.
No, that's fair enough.
I'll do an overall cost at the end of the video of what I've spent to get it to the spec that I'm at.
Yeah.
That's the best way, I think. So yeah, made it up to the LT230 transport box, custom prop shaft, just chopped, welded nicely, no worries. Look, 4 of us have done it that way and we've not had a problem with props. Handbrake, standard, just connects back up, speedo, standard. Wheels, I was on 33s, I went for 35s to up the gearing a little bit, so it had a bit more top end. Wish I'd gone for 37s. This tops out at about 100 to 105 mile an hour indicated on the speedo. I've got the blue speedo drive, so if somebody wants to work out if that's accurate or not, feel free. Not quoting any speed, but that's what it's indicating in there on a private road. Then we move over to sort of modifying a little bit. So now we've got it in the Landrover. We need rad and intercooler. I went for the TD5 Alley rad and intercooler. It bolts straight in, quick to attach, done. Alternator. We're not running 24 volt on this truck. We've gone for a Ford Transit alternator, 120 amp output with the vacuum pump on the back. You could probably use a Vauxhall Astra van, one would, because we're using the vacuum pump for the brakes. Air, we've got the air compressor on here, pipe work, various pipe work to the tanks in the back. I can plug in an air line into the back of my truck, use power tools, blow up tyres. You've seen my horn already.
This is all extras.
Yeah, clutch works on it, but you do need air. A lot of people can do it differently. Then we move on to another tricky subject, power steering. I didn't know about the power steering, as you found out in previous videos.
Well, if they're finding us through looking for how much it costs to put a Cummins in your truck,
yeah,
go back and look
through the other videos. Power steering was a big issue for me. I didn't really know too much about it. I'm led to believe that the lorry power steering pump outputs 160 bar of pressure. I'll probably be corrected with that. It's just a figure that it floats around on the floor. And the standard Landrover steering box can only take 60 odd. So it's obviously not compatible. So it's fine, driving around it's fine, it's not too light, it feels fine. But when you go on full lock, bang! And I kid you not, it splits the steering box right in half. If not, it will do the hose.
And how much did it cost to do the pump?
Cost 130 quid with Nick Stegel. If you go to Steg Supplies, that's who I'm going to refer to in a minute. He does the pumps, gets them reconditioned, send his old one. And he said, I stand by all of the pumps. So I fitted it up and I went, okay, let's see how it rolls then. Put it on full lock. Sweet. Exactly as it said on the tin. That's that issue cured, in my opinion. The other option I was considering before I found out that you could have these pumps reconditioned was a couple of the boys put the Vauxhall Saphira power steering unit wired up to the Land Rover box. That's another way of doing it. It works, and I'm told it works well. Modifying then. So, standard with your lorry, you should get a HX35 turbo. That turbo is man enough for 500 horsepower, so I'm told. However, I know I'm not running that much horsepower, but I've gone for a HX40, HX35 hybrid. So I've got a HX40 compressor housing and a HX35 12cm exhaust housing with a billet wheel. And it does spool up pretty decently, to be fair. I was expecting a bit more lag than I've got. I've also gone for Nick Stegel from Steg Supplies. Boost pin, I haven't gone for the timing spacer as yet. That may be something that we put in later.
Something you need to look at because you're not sure how it works on this.
Yeah. I've also gone for the 180 injectors because they can really wind the fuel up a bit. And I've also, when we took the engine out of the lorry, we advanced the timing to letter C. So we've advanced the timing, and as it is now, before we wound up the fuel, you should be on Euro 1 spec emissions.
The extra power mods to have the bigger turbo, the bigger injectors, the intercooler, the boost pin, set you back about
800 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a figure.
There's a figure. I'm yet to have it dynoed. That's coming. I've just got to sort a couple of little teething issues with things. Well, I'm hoping for 300 brake horsepower plus. There's been a couple of guesses on the forum, 275, 290, 300. From what I'm told and what the Yanks get, I know that the Yanks like to emphasise stuff a lot. I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't reach the 300 mark. 275 will be alright, but it won't sort of justify the 800 quid that I've put into it to see the 300 brake horsepower Since the last video, if you watch back when we did the head gasket, we put the snorkel on, that's working really well. I wound the fuel in a little bit because we didn't know what this turbo and injector setup would be like. It goes really well now.
It's only at 20 psi.
We're only at 20 psi today. I'm waiting to put the adjustable pivot point in the gearbox to help the clutch out a little bit, and then we should be able to wind it up.
How much does that kit cost, the new from?
Reese Myers, costs 75 quid, it's an adjustable pivot. Need to put that in. So yeah, that's that. Points that I would have done differently if I was doing the conversion again. Some really important points, because although I've done it and it's done, I've learned a lot along the way from the teething problem. So I don't say that I did it wrong, I just didn't know. I'm happy that some of them have happened because I've learned a lot about the conversion and all that along the way. Power steering, big one, sort it before you put the engine in, because it's a bugger. When I went to Nürburgring, I took a spare steering box and hose with me because it was just a inevitable tool that was going to happen. Thankfully it didn't happen the next day after getting back, turning around at work. So yeah, sort that out. Next thing to sort out, adjustable pivot point inside the gearbox.
Next we got to do that, yeah.
We've got to do that. A Series 3 109 inch master cylinder. When I first did the conversion, I had the standard Defender, I guess it's a 3/4 inch master. Very difficult to get into gear, probably because the clutch was dragging slightly, but it didn't slip at all. With the Series 109 master cylinder, I can get it into gear lovely, it's driving beautiful, but the clutch bite is a little high, and with some load on the back, digger on the back, I've experienced slip once or twice. I found out later on that the adjustable pivot point that pivots, so you've got the slave on this end and the pivot on that one. If you look in through my inspection hole, you can see my pivot slightly on the piss. So I need to push it that way towards the clutch to even the pushing pressure on the clutch, and that should sort that out. Unfortunately, I've got to take the gearbox out, which is a bit of a mammoth job, but such is life. Other things I've done differently, probably a snorkel to start with. If you watched the previous video of blowing the head gasket through driving through what was a puddle.
Go back to the very first video on the channel. It's about 20 minutes long, but most people find it quite entertaining, and Josh gets quite miserable
for a couple of weeks. Other things I'd have done differently, the starter motor, that's another big one. You need a 12-volt starter with the correct things. I had that already, so that wasn't an issue for me.
which he's playing up now.
Yeah. I would have probably done a 4-inch downpipe. I'm only on a 3-inch downpipe. I'm told that is a power gain. Other things I'd have done differently, probably if I'd had the time, I'd have put a PTO winch on to start with. But apart from teething issues, that's about it really. Looking forward for me, Ford Bronco transfer box or something a little bit stronger in that area. Maybe a different axle setup. Patrol Y61, so I'm told. Or
that's so you can run more power.
That's so the power can be more. Let's have it. You can't pull away quick with these because you will just end up with gears all over the floor. It's not made for it. No matter what anybody tells you, it's not made for the power it's got. So okay, once you're rolling, sort of third and fourth, let's have it. Let's have a race. But otherwise than that, pulling wise, you won't struggle to pull anything. So other engine conversions that you could have done instead of the 5.9 or 3.9 Cummins swap. You could have gone for the 6.2 V8 GMC. Little bit old now, struggle to start in the winter type jobbies, but bucketfuls of power.
But there's plenty of, if you wanted to go into it, plenty of other better V8s you could put in it now.
Yes. Other engines then, so the OM606, which is a very popular engine, highly tunable. I've been slated for slating them a little bit, so we'll just clear this out. I don't have a problem with the OM606, and I don't have a problem with the M57 conversions. Both are very good conversions for reliability, tuning, second to none. My only slight gripe with the OM606 is it's a very short stroke engine. Why don't they put the one out of the Sprinter in there? Long stroke, lots of torque, equally as tunable, but longer strokes, torque. This is a power bus. It needs the grunt for towing, for this, that and the other. So that's the OM606. The M57 BMW straight 6 3-litre diesel. Friend of ours has got one. Sounds the nuts. Sounds awesome.
It's cool.
Sounds like a petrol V8 and revs like one as well. A couple of lads put them in now. Very
and
cool.
obviously you've got the luxury of modern ECU. Once all that's set up, you can have it remapped.
And the only other bonus to that engine, and I haven't read in too much to the M66, the only other bonus to the M57 is they do an adapter plate to go straight on the Landrover gearbox and transfer box.
Very simple.
Very simple. In you go, job done. My only slight concern with that is the M57 and the OM606 can produce wicked power figures, awesome, but is an R380 or LT77 gearbox going to take it? We shall find out.
Very different powers. The Cummins a different style of powers.
Yeah, different style of powers. And they're not really comparable. If somebody said, Josh, I want to go fast in my Land Rover, I want to have it reliable, blah, 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 I'd say M57 all day long. I know we have a bit of banter and that with them, and sometimes it don't go quite the right way, but such is life. But if you want to tow a digger, or tow something long distance, or load it up and go up a hill like that, you ain't going to get any better than that. That's for sure, unless you fit a modern day V8 with an ECU or something else. Even the ISB, I don't know too much about the ISB, the 24 valve Cummins 5.9. I guess that is in another sort of argument against the M57 and the OM606 because that's the big power. And there's one of the chaps on the forum is putting the ISB 24 valve on an auto box with paddles. That's the way to go. So that's my opinion of the other engine versions available. If you want to go fast, you want reliability, OM606 or M57. If you want to go fast and tow anything with ease, alright, transfer box is a bit weak, diffs are a bit weak, but I mean, once you're moving with that weight, this is it. This is the way to go. Reliability. You can start this with a screwdriver if you really want. Boom, done. You can turn it off. I mean, mine doesn't turn off in the key. Pull stop, because the 24 valve, the 24 volt solenoid broke on me. I was told when I first did the conversions, it will break, you'll need a pull stop. I thought, rubbish, no I won't. Put it, and sure as eggs were eggs, it went wrong. You could put the 200 TDI one in, but apparently sometimes it doesn't turn them off, and I just thought, oh, I could make this really smart actually, so I rigged it up, because I don't use the bonnet pull anymore, I rigged it up to the bonnet pull, so turn my engine off, I just pull on the bonnet pull. We could also incorporate that into a little bit of an immobiliser system, sort of cut it off, clamp it off, and it will not start with that lever pulled. And unless you know this engine, but other security features I use, paddle lock, disc lock, or wheel lock, all that sort of stuff.
And the fact that it's inside.
And the fact it's inside most of the time, and the fact that I have a gun. But yeah, this is the way to go. There are teething problems, as with any conversion. You have to remember this truck is 30 odd years old now, so there's bushes that need doing and things that and the other.
Before the puddle and all the new mods, but to get it in there working how you had it, what did it cost?
So to get it in there working before now, if you had £4,000.
And many man hours.
Many man hours. If you can't do fabrication yourself, and I'm not calling myself a fabricator at all.
We're just lucky we got friends.
I was just lucky I got friends that will help me out and stuff. I mean, I did all of it. It's just I had help plonking the engine in, because the engine and gearbox weighs a ton. We put it in with a digger just because it's just easy, very controllable with a digger. I actually snapped the clock and heavy duty engine crane in half trying to put that in. So it's just, that's the way to go. So if you can't do fabrication and you can't work on it yourself, stay away and stick to your 300 TDIs and your TD5s and your 2.4 Pumas.
Simple.
Not because I'm not saying you can't do it, it needs someone that can lay on the floor.
You need a mechanic and an engineer.
Yeah, you've got to, it's like doing a bloody car basically. It's very labour intensive, the entirety of it. But once you're done for ages. Moving back to the other engine conversions, with the OM606 and the M57, you've got ECU issues. You could have electrical faults, this, that, the other. I know you can have most of this mapped out, but my argument is, without me sinking it in the puddle, if it had been how it is now, I could have fully submerged it and it survived. If it had a snorkel, which it does now. But I'm just a bit, with the M57 and the OM606, you get the ECU where it's kind of game over, in my opinion. I know you could make it waterproof and all that, but it's just how I think. Yes, it's very agricultural. If you want something that runs smooth and it's not noisy, you either go for the ISB, the ECU controlled version out of the Dodge Ram, or you go for the OM606, the M57. I just think for just sheer towing power, this is better than those. Not saying that it's not as powerful or whatever, because there's been that argument, and there is this great debate on the Cummins forum with the OM606 lot and the M57 lot, and I've been at the brunt of it all. It is only a laugh, guys, don't get too touchy about it. Tug of war wise, it'd be interesting, but
you'd have to have your transfer box and diffs ready to drive home afterwards,
yeah,
just in case.
Yeah, on both trucks, I'm sure. If you link
it's all, you all got the same bit at the end. It's just
yeah, it's all the same bits, all the same diffs, all the same transfer box. I know we've got different gears in there, but they're not any more. The casing's no different. As soon as you twist the casing and the gear jumps off the driving gear, you're going to damage something. Same as a standard transfer box. You can blow a standard transfer box up in. Other bits to think about: diff lock and high and low. Reese sells the air kit for 250 quid, which is a plate that bolts to the top of the transfer box, connects up to the high and low and the diff lock. I've got those wired into 2 pull air switches. They're in their pushed in state are in high and no diff lock, and in their pulled out state the air actuator arms pull back, clicks it into low and diff lock, and I can do each one if I want. Moving forward, could put locking diffs front and back, and then it really would go anywhere. Adam's got those in his, and it would just go anywhere. Other things that could do, Ollie's got some air suspension on his, which is pretty sick. We're going to do a video on that truck, because he is going to be sticking a Cummins in his. Oh, moving back to the Cummins variants, so you can get a 5.9 like mine, a 130 brake, a 150 brake, a 160 brake, which mine was originally, and a 180 brake. Then you move up to what's called the P pump. Looks the same until you start to look at the fuel pump area and the front timing casing. It's got a different pump on it called the P pump, much better pump. I'm told a little bit worse when it goes wrong, high maintenance,
limitless
to rebuild.
Fuel supply there.
Limitless fuel supply. Bosch VE, they fit to 200 TDI, 300 TDI. This has just got 6 outlets. This is exactly the same pretty much. So for future proofing, for taking a Bosch VE pump to your local diesel specialist, they're going to go, oh yeah, I've taken loads of those apart. Cheap to do. That's my only thing with that. Ollie is going to do his, so I'm told, with compound turbos.
Yeah.
And run some big power. My only thing that I've discussed with him is that transfer box going to take 600 horsepower. No, which is probably why in next year I'll think about maybe some different axles, like I said, or going over to the Ford Bronco transfer box. Apparently you can't break that puppy. So I'm interested to find out about the NP205. I'm interested to find out about Dana axles. I don't actually know what they're from. I see them discussed all the time. Like I said, Y61 Patrol is next to me. I may even have a look what sort of Unimog setup we could do. Don't know how wide it's going to be, but I saw an off-roader with a 5.7 V8 Chevy in on Unimogs, and he had independent locking, air locking things. That was pretty sick. Tune in next time where we take this to the dyno and see if it dynos me happy or sad, and give us a subscribe and a like. We're going to have a few more videos. We've got my Peugeot 106 Rally to do. We've got a build on the moment of a Ford Puma, and we've also got Aaron's BMW M3 to do a bit more on. We've got all 3 generations of Toyota MR2, and we've also got a Megane 250 to do a review on. There is a couple of others in the pipeline which we may have. We may have a Lancia Delta Integrale, a normal Lancia Delta, Frankenstein to do. We've got a 2006 V8 manual Ford Mustang, and we've got loads of other bits and bobs that we can do reviews on. So subscribe and like. We're all idiots, but we're all into cars. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Cheers.